Okay, hello. We're here with Josh Jones, the Green Party candidate for governor of California, and Sadie Fulton is his campaign manager. And we want to talk about the upcoming gubernatorial debate. But first, I want to give you some background. In 2012, Jill Stein and Sherry Honkala were arrested at Hofstra University. They were arrested trying to get into the presidential debate. Because of the Commission on Presidential Debates, a private corporation that was formed by Republicans and Democrats to keep any minor parties out of the debates and keep their voice silent, kept them from entering the debate, and ultimately they were arrested for trying. If that's not bad enough, at the federal level, in California, in 2010, Laura Wells was running for governor, was arrested at Dominican University. She was arrested for trespassing as well. She also had tickets to get into the debate, but they arrested her for trespassing anyway. To add insult to injury, the San Rafael Police Department set her court date on the election day. So fast forward to today. On May 8th, NBC Bay Area and Silicon Valley Community Foundation is going to host a California gubernatorial debate. It's going to be moderated by Chuck Todd, and they are in the process of deciding who will be able to be included in that debate. So I want to go ahead and let Josh and Sadie talk about their involvement in that debate and whether or not they've been contacted. So do you guys have information on that?
So I'm Josh Jones. I'm running for governor of California in the Green Party 2018. And this is Sadie Fulton, my campaign manager. And she has a lot more information than I do about these particular problems.
Yeah. So I'll start by saying basically the NPR debate are publicly stating, well, we're going to choose which candidates to include based on polling so that it's totally impartial and fair and well selected. And this all sounds really wonderful. So there are 27 candidates running for governor who made it onto the ballot. And of those, there have been 6 regularly included in the polls. Now, here's the catch. So they say we will have impartial decisions on who the candidates are based on the results of these polls. But these polls are only asking about 6 of the 27 candidates.
I hear the police coming now for us.
So the long story short is they've kind of sent it on a little wiggle route. But if you trace it back, the question that needs to be answered is why then are you not including all 27 candidates in the polls? There are 4 polls that we're using NPR as a case study. There are 4 polls that they're leaning on for their selection process. And of those, 3 of them have run polls already, all of which included the same 6 candidates. And the 4th one I do not believe has run a poll yet. I haven't found anything about it. So
can I interject something real quick? I mean, one of my questions would be, without knowing the detail, is why wouldn't they include at least one person from each of the parties that when you pay your filing fee, when you have your ballot statement paid for, this is, about $6,000 we're talking about. Okay, we did that. Well, why isn't a Green on in the poll, and why isn't there Gloria La Riva, Peace and Freedom, and a Libertarian and an Independent at least?
Yeah, as a baseline, there are 5 no party preference candidates, 2 Libertarian candidates. There's plenty of scope for other opinions. In fact, I know that basically they had their 6 candidates, and then they had like other as a category, and other was polling like 6% pretty consistently. So that implies they don't have the whole thing locked up.
And that's without being specific.
Yeah, exactly. That's just like, hey, are
Other.
you gonna vote for someone else? And 6% of people went, yeah, I'm gonna vote for someone else. And they didn't probe into who those people were. And we don't know if it was an even split between the other 22 candidates, or if it was heavily skewed towards one candidate or another candidate. We don't know that. They didn't find that information out.
At the very least, without names, people are going to just say, oh, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So it skews it towards not putting other.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it had a specific name that had name recognition, they might click that name. So it's totally skewed that way.
Exactly. So I guess to summarize, the bottom line is that the Secretary of State's office itself does a very good job of running the appearance of what is a multi-party system. Everything that, you get the literature from them, it's got 6 parties on it. You go to file your registration, that's got plenty of choices on it. Anything that's officially through the Secretary of State's office will openly admit there are more than 2 parties in California.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you get to the media, as soon as you get to the pollings, as soon as you get even things like, there was a few months back, there was a betting site that was, how they sometimes gamble and it's like, hey, I'm going to put down 85 to the dollar that so-and-so wins, or that means, if I put down $1, then I get $1.85 back if they win. And there's a lot of sites like that. And I wanted to vote green and just put in a couple dollars because why not, right?
Well, the odds are great.
In the sense that you'd get a whole lot of money.
And is that
once
legal
we break
gambling on? Is that legal gambling on our electoral process?
It is, and in some parts of the world, they actually use the gambling as an additional pull.
Because informed people pick, like, I think that Jeremy Corbyn's going to win. And the people that put money on Jeremy Corbyn cash out big.
Yeah. So the odds go up or the odds go down. And so because the gambling websites are always really trying to keep it so that they get a profit, they're going to be less interested in a partisan slant and more interested in a for-profit slant.
So what happened with the Green Party?
Well, basically they said, okay, we'll consider it, and then I never heard anything again, and it just
that's right.
Nothing ever happened. So even on things like that, it's like we don't even exist. Gotcha. They keep us off of everything.
Yeah, the corporate rulers want to control things.
Let me back up a little bit. Can you talk about the requirements to be on the ballot as far as signatures and costs?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you want to cover that one?
Yeah, I can take it a bit if you want to take some too. Okay. Well, so what was the amount that each signature in lieu of filing fee? 45 cents?
It was a ballpark 50 cents, give or take a couple
about 50 cents. And so we had to gather something like 7,000 signatures in order to cover $3,914. It's a little less than 50, but $3,914 for the to run as a governor, and that's the filing fee just to get through that gate. Different rate. It's based on the salary of the office, so it's some percentage, right? And you see smaller for Secretary of State and so on. And then the candidate statement is another thing, and that costs $25 per word, a maximum, and it's outrageous, right? And before 2006, it was free. It was considered part of, the state publishes this book that goes to everybody, right? Booklet to voter guide, right? And so the maximum amount of words is 250. If they waive the restriction, the voluntary restriction on how much money they spend, which for the governor, you're allowed to spend, what is the amount? In 6 months in the primary, you're allowed to spend, what is it, $8 million?
Oh, yeah, it's $8 million.
So it's an outrageous sum, right? We don't need $8 million. We could, we've already gone around, California to all 58 states, but like we've already gone to about half with about what, $2,000. Yeah. about half of the county. Why would we need 8 million? But anyway, some people apparently.
Okay, we're back on after some technical difficulties with Josh Jones and Sadie Fulton. So we were covering the cost of getting on the ballot. Can you go ahead and review that for us?
Yeah, so there are two main fees that have to be paid in order to be properly on the ballot. One of those fees is what's called, well, it's a filing fee. And so you can do signatures to offset that. And it's about 50 cents, 45 cents each signature in lieu of filing fee is what they call it. And so we had 50 volunteers plus, I think 50 plus across the state gathering signatures. And the whole fee for that to be a candidate officially is $3,914, which is a percentage of the salary of the governor. So for Secretary of State, their filing fee would be a little smaller, and so on. We collected, quite a few signatures. 50 volunteers is pretty good. All over in tons of the counties across California. But because the way that each county office, elections office, counts those in lieu of filing fee signatures, is that they go, oh, okay, here's one sheet. Well, there are 50% mistakes on this. So this stack of sheets that we have, they're all 50% wrong. They don't want to count it through or whatever. They have too much to do. I don't know what. Anyway, it sounds like a likely excuse.
Yeah.
It knocked our in lieu of signatures way down, but we still, we had a lot of people donate. We're really excited about the campaign, so we ended up paying, I think it was
$3,794.
So we paid, a little less.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we had to pay to be, a reasonable candidate was our candidate statement. And now that is a maximum of 250 words. Each word costs $25. It's outrageous, right? The maximum, if you do the maximum words, is $6,250. We ended up doing 83 words to have a really good try and really good candidate statement, but not, overspend. So 83 words was great. And I kind of Twitterized it, if that makes sense. I used to do Twitter a lot. So I wrote it, and then I kind of like crunched it down to essentialize it. And it still has the main content there.
Yeah.
But it fit in that A3. And then Sadie came up with a brilliant way of saving a little bit of money. Want to tell them?
Sure. So I was reading over the notes on how they define a word and how they figure out the pricing, and I figured out that a URL counts as one word. And we had from the beginning figuring out that this costs $25 a word. We're thinking, well, we want the general public to know that, because that's an impediment to democracy.
Right.
And what the general public's experience is just, here's my candidate's statement brochure, and a lot of people just didn't write very much. And they go thinking, well, those people just must not care very much. I don't understand why they didn't write anything, but they just must not be very bothered.
But
and
if you're corporate free,
exactly,
it's harder to
Bingo.
Get, if you're getting money from corporations, $6,250 is chump change, right?
Exactly.
So this is another gate. They always close all these little gates everywhere.
So,
you can't
it's an effective way to make the corporate candidates look like the only serious candidates.
So what's the URL?
So the long story short, in order to get this message out, we decided to register the URL. Candidate statements cost $25 a word.com. That counted as one word, and the purchasing of a domain was $10. So
awesome.
it was a bargain price of $35.
And then they were like, what? They're about 9 words, 10 words, which would have been a lot more money.
$175.
Right? Plus, we were able to put an expanded thing on the URL and talk about the history. Really, what I wanted to do is talk about the history of this, how important it is for people to get across the state your information, what the heck you are standing for. Are you like a corporate shill? Do you care about the people and the solutions and the problems of the people on the ground, or are you just being force-fed focus group ideas, right? So they need to know. That's like a civic duty of the state. It's the duty of the state to broadcast this. Why is it costing money? So I found out by research that that before 2006 it was free, and in some counties it is still free, and in some counties it costs more.
I think there's another element to the politics of a candidate statement once you understand how much it costs, because hiding from the general public how much it costs is a way for them to make non-serious wealthy people seem serious and serious poor people seem not serious.
Or
so
even
it equates,
just funded by regular folks.
Exactly. For instance, there's a candidate running for Senate, for U.S. Senate, who devoted his entire 250-word candidate statement to bashing on trans people.
Yeah.
And when you know that that cost him $6,000, like, it's a terrible statement to begin with, but when you know that it cost him $6,000, it's just like, who is this person and why hasn't he got a life?
And why are you wasting time, money, and time saying,
and resources to harass people who don't even bother you?
Multi-use bathrooms will ruin our children's lives.
Yeah.
What does that mean? You know, at your house, do you have, you know, like now everybody says that.
That becomes much more obvious to the general public if we can make it common knowledge that these candidate statements are wildly expensive.
Does that cover your question on that?
Absolutely, and I want to say that that is brilliant what you did with the website.
Thank you.
That website, I think you should keep it, and I think we should use it for the Green Party and every candidate for their statements going forward. Develop it so everybody knows. Because
I like it. Yeah.
The Green Party is all viable, and the public has to know why they believe that. Is because it's prohibitive. The system is prohibitive to people that are not part of the two-party corporate system.
Right. And if I can say something, I tell people all the time. We have a slogan. You know, one of our slogans. One of it is corporate human rights, not corporate rights. That's something I really care about. But another one that's fun is green means go. Okay, but then I have to define, what do I mean by green? So the Green Party,
what do you mean by go?
Well, this is what I mean.
Yeah.
I say this all the time in stumps speeches and meetings and rallies out there. I say the Green Party is the party of human rights, labor rights, workers' rights, and environmental rights. It's not just about the environment. It's about human rights, human dignity. And the Democrats and the Republicans are for corporate rights. Whether, you know, there may be two kind of directions of corporate that I will talk about sometimes, but they're for corporate rights, right? They're for corporations. They get a lot of corporate money. Right. That's the Green Party. So, like, we need to, the majority of the people, if they realize what the Green Party stands for, would vote for the Green Party. We way out, you know, the 99%, we outnumber, you know, corporate persons, which don't exist, right? But rich people, for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent. So let's get back to this current debate. So when they talk about they only have, you said 8 candidates that they polled or that they had listed in the polls, 8 or 6?
6. 4 Democrats and 2 Republicans.
Now, a lot of people don't know who the candidates are yet. So
yeah.
Part of the debate, part of the polling is partly to introduce candidates. We don't have a system to introduce all of the candidates.
That's true. Yeah. And you do hear that when you're talking to people out and about. 2/3 of the people here, maybe more, don't really know how top 2 works. Very few people do. And B, they're always, you know, you hear this over and over. Well, I went on the media, I heard this candidate and I heard that candidate. I heard debates between this candidate and that candidate. That's all I heard mentioned. And then I got my ballot and there's 26 people on it. And I've never heard of any of these other people. Who are they?
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
I voted my entire life. And, you know, I mean, I voted for Peter Camejo way back in the day. And I knew who he was because I saw him in an alternate party debate, right? Third party debate with libertarians and others. But I've always been kind of into politics. So what about the regular voters out there?
Exactly.
They need to know too.
Similarly, even in primaries, you know, during the Democratic primary, I remember I went to vote for Bernie Sanders back before I Dem exited and Green entered. And I got my ballot, and it had this guy, Rocky De La Fuente, on it.
Right.
And I'm going, I literally thought my only choices were going to be Bernie or Hillary. I've never heard of this guy. And I would have liked to check out what he stood for, right? So,
and in the interest of decentralization and democracy,
exactly,
I think we absolutely have to demand that we see all the people. I don't care if they're the worst person in the world. I want to know what that person's thinking and stands for.
Exactly.
Or the best person in the world.
Let us exclude candidates.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
have you heard any reply on how they picked the 6 that they chose?
No, I've heard nothing. I haven't managed to get concrete contact with any of the polling stations. And I did ask NPR how they plan to mitigate for the fact that the pollings that were not actually valid themselves, because if they're trying to be impartial, they need to choose polls that include all the candidates, right? And the guy I spoke to said, well, that makes sense. I can't answer that question for you, so I'll pass you to my supervisor. And he did. And I got through to voicemail, and I never heard back. And I tried a few times. Every time I got through to voicemail. And so, you know, it's like, okay, well, we can't answer that, so go away. I could keep trying. I would encourage people watching this to give it a shot, because then it's not just like pesky campaign manager.
The
It's
more
of
people
a,
that do it, the
exactly.
might break through.
They know there's actually a lot of people who want
I want
this.
to say something else, that we sat down and ran preliminary numbers, theoretical numbers on how the vote might play based on information we have about demographics of voters. And we came up with a very unusual spread where I'm somewhere near the top 2. Now, that's theoretical. It's based on some assumptions. It does show that the Republicans are dangerously close to getting into top 2 also.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't say exactly who it is right now. We'll probably publish a second round once we do an iteration or 2 more. But we can tell, I think, why they're keeping certain people in the race and pushing certain people forward,
and pushing other people out
because of them. They have a lot of money, so they have all kinds of analysts to run these statistics, right, and do surveys on the side, scientific surveys. They know the same numbers we're looking at, so they should have me in that poll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it doesn't make it makes sense that if they don't want a Green, if the corporations don't want a Green to be elected governor, of course, exclude. Well, I mean, that's probably what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
right. So let me ask you this. What can people do to help get you guys in the debate or help get representation for minor party candidates or NPP candidates?
So there's a couple things. One is call the polling stations and let them know that you want the polling to be open and reflective of the ballot itself. 2 is basically check in with the debates and ask them the same question that I asked, which is, so if you're trying to be impartial, how do you justify basing your choice of candidates on polls which are not impartial?
Right.
Another thing you can do is, if you get polled, then that's a golden opportunity, because then you say, no, look, I'm voting for Josh Jones. Or even if you're, if someone's watching this who happens to support one of the other 22 candidates who aren't among the 6 favorites, they should specify this needs to reflect the ballot. Every time they get that call, the polls need to reflect the ballot. So that's inbound and outbound are 2 of the different ways of looking at that.
Well, there's another way too,
yes.
which is that we can make our own debates, right? I know I've talked to Gloria LaRiva, or at least, I talk to her sometimes, but somebody who's working with her, and he said she wants to have a debate or a forum or what have you with me and her and a libertarian and an independent. So we're looking into that. But we could do other ones too.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, I mean, I think one thing we have to remember is that they're probably going to just shine us on.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to close, they're going to black us out, right? Keep us out of all the debates with little mechanisms and tricks and excuses. So we should just have certain kinds, like let's have a corporate-free debate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That might include, if some people, let's say, our revolution did it, that might include some theoretically corporate-free Democrats.
Yeah.
I have no problem sitting down with somebody running like that. That's okay. I'll probably win a debate because it's pretty easy, you know. I never took corporate money ever in my life.
That makes it easier, yeah.
For politics, I did work as a solar electric
them.
designer, and I mean as a wage, but that doesn't count.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing.
Yeah. And then the other thing that could help is to let us know about any other debates that you find that we haven't actually reached out to yet, so that we can cast a wider net on those.
Right. Yes. Very good. So we may have a platform to do an independent debate.
Excellent.
So if you guys can stay in contact with me, and if you have contacts like Gloria LaRiva, I reached out to her before to do an interview. I hadn't heard back. I actually met her. And anybody else who might be interested, you know, it'd be good to have a libertarian.
Who's the libertarian you like?
Well, I don't.
I know. I'm just saying.
There are two
like
libertarian candidates. I don't know if I like either of them particularly. I don't know what the internal libertarian whatever it is.
We don't
but
really know.
They have two candidates. They have Nicholas Wildstar and Zoltan Istvan.
I kind of like Wildstar a little more. He seems a little more, let's say, sometimes libertarians can be non-corporate.
Sure.
So, you know, I tend to like that kind of libertarian more. I can talk to them better, you know.
Yeah, but we've had no contact with them yet.
The independents, you have to be careful because some of them are, you know, really super right-wing or whatever. Some of them
we could talk about who later, but I just want to keep that open to you guys, and it could happen before
that'd be great.
The elections.
Yeah, do it.
For people who don't know, can you talk about the top two system that we have in California?
Sure.
You want to take it?
Okay. So California's a little bit unique in that, I mean, there's other states that have the system, but most Americans are familiar with the presidential primary system. And the way that works is you register with a party or not, and then you get a ballot early in the year saying who do you want that party's candidate to be. So it's all very party-based. Top two is not.
So at the end, you see all these parties.
Exactly.
And you can vote for one or the other.
Yeah. So top two is basically no matter what party you're registered for, no matter what your affiliation, whatever, you get a ballot that contains every last one of the primary candidates. And then...
And you can vote on any one of those people. Doesn't matter what party you're in, you can vote.